The moment I saw that bank statement, my hand started to shake. Not because of the missing money, but because of the name printed where mine should have been. You ever have one of those moments when time doesn't quite stop, but it stumbles, like the air goes thick around you, and even your own breath sounds foreign? That was me standing in our small kitchen, staring at a piece of paper that was about to change the way I saw my entire marriage. The morning had started quietly. The kettle was hissing softly, sunlight streaming through the lace curtains, catching the floating dust. My husband, Michael, had already left for work. He always left early on Thursdays. Said he liked to beat the traffic. I believed him. Back then, I still believed everything. I remember thinking how lucky I was. 13 years of marriage, a modest home we'd built together, and a savings account that represented every late night, every skipped vacation, every meal cooked at home instead of ordered out. We weren't rich, but we were steady, and in a world that changes too fast, steady felt like gold. I'd gone to check our online banking to pay the property tax, something I always handled. But the screen said, error. I tried again, then again. Finally, I called the bank, expecting some system glitch. The woman on the other end was polite, too polite. She asked for security verification, then hesitated before speaking. Ma'am, the joint account you're referring to, it's been closed. I blinked, confused. Closed? What do you mean closed? My husband and I, we have our life savings in there. There was a pause, a kind that holds something heavy inside it. Ma'am, the funds were transferred to a new account holder. Transferred where? I asked, my voice sharper than I meant. She hesitated again, then said, under the authorization of Mr. Michael Roberts, to an account in the name of Samantha Foster. That was the moment, the one where my world stumbled. I thanked her. I don't even know why, habit maybe. Then I sat down at the table, staring at the floral tablecloth I'd ironed just 2 days earlier. There was a tea stain near the edge, the one I'd meant to scrub out. Funny how small things stay the same even when your life is about to fall apart. For a few long minutes, I didn't move, didn't cry, didn't breathe properly. My mind was blank, like a snowfield after a storm, cold, silent, endless. And then, like cracks spreading in ice, thoughts began to creep in. Who was Samantha? Why would Michael transfer our money? And why hadn't he told me? I wish I could tell you I confronted him right away. But I didn't. I folded the paper, tucked it into my apron pocket, and went about my chores like nothing happened. I made soup for lunch. I watered the plants. I even texted Michael a picture of a new curtain design I wanted for the living room. He replied with a thumbs-up emoji. That night, he came home with his usual charm, talking about work, complaining about the new manager, laughing at his own stories. He kissed me on the forehead and said, "You worry too much, Hannah. One day you'll give yourself wrinkles." I smiled. But something in me had already started to wrinkle, just not on my skin. Before that day, our life had been ordinary. A good ordinary. I worked part-time at the library. Michael ran a small logistics business he'd started 5 years ago. We didn't have children, not for lack of trying, just fate's quiet refusal. Still, our days were full. Dinners with friends, movie nights, the occasional trip to the beach. We were one of those couples people described as solid. I'd always been proud of that. Michael wasn't perfect, he had a temper sometimes, and he could be dismissive when stressed, but he was reliable. Or so I thought. He paid bills on time, brought groceries, even remembered anniversaries. If you'd told me a week earlier that he was capable of lying to me, I would have laughed. That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't come from enemies. It wears the face you kiss goodnight. The next morning, I watched him dress for work: white shirt, navy tie, the same routine he'd had for years. He hummed an old song under his breath, something his mother used to sing. I wanted to ask him right then, to look him in the eye and say, "Why did you do it, Michael? Who is she?" But fear stopped me. Not fear of him, fear of the answer. Because once you ask a question like that, you can't unhear the truth. So I waited. I told myself there must be a logical reason. Maybe Samantha was a client. Maybe it was a business thing. Maybe I was overreacting. I spent that entire day searching for Samantha Foster on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, anywhere. There were dozens. I didn't know which one, if any, was hers. All I knew was that the name was now tied to everything Michael and I had built together. That evening, while folding laundry, I found a small envelope in the pocket of his jeans. Inside, a printed receipt from the bank. It confirmed the transfer. $84,700 moved from our joint account to an account ending in 4,592. And there it was again, her name. I sat on the edge of the bed, the fabric softener still strong in the air. and just stared at that number. That was our money. Every overtime shift he'd worked, every meal I'd cooked to save a few dollars, it was all in there. Years of quiet teamwork, gone in one transaction. When he came home that night, I didn't say a word. I just watched him, the way he loosened his tie, the way he asked for tea. He looked so normal, so familiar, but my heart had already started collecting evidence. He blinked once, then twice, and then just like that, he laughed. Not the nervous kind of laugh, no. The kind that says you're being ridiculous. "Hannah," he said, setting his spoon down, "you've really got to stop overthinking everything. Samantha is my accountant. She manages a few of our company accounts. I told you about her months ago, remember?" I hadn't. He never had. But the way he said it, calm, easy, confident, it made me second-guess my own memory. That's how it begins, doesn't it? Not with shouting or threats, but with soft, reasonable words that make you doubt the ground under your feet. "I must have forgotten," I murmured, my eyes dropping to the table. He smiled, triumphant, and reached for his glass of water. "See? You always worry for nothing. The money's safe. I just moved it to protect us." "Then why didn't you tell me before doing it?" I asked, my voice quieter now, like I was afraid of it. He sighed. "Because you get anxious about finances. I didn't want to stress you out. It's temporary, okay? I'll move it back once the situation settles." That word, temporary, stuck to my ribs like a stone. After he went to bed, I stayed up, staring at the ceiling fan spinning lazily in the dark. My mind was a tornado. Everything he said sounded logical, but something about it felt hollow, like a door that looks painted but leads nowhere. Still, I told myself to wait, to believe. That's what wives do, isn't it? We give the benefit of the doubt until there's none left to give. A few days passed. Michael was suddenly busier than ever. Late nights at the office, calls taken in the hallway, business dinners that stretched past midnight. I tried not to pry, but I started keeping small notes, times, dates, little inconsistencies, not out of revenge, just for my own clarity. Because deep down, I already knew something was off. One night, I decided to drop by his office unannounced. I told myself it was to surprise him with dinner. He loved homemade lasagna, and I'd made it exactly how he liked it, with extra parmesan. But when I got there, the security guard looked confused. "Ma'am, sir, already left an hour ago," he said, scratching his head. He said he had to meet someone in downtown. Downtown. That was the expensive part of town. The part where people wore perfume that cost more than my monthly groceries. "Did he say who he was meeting?" I asked casually. The guard hesitated. "A client, I think. A woman." That night, I didn't call him. I waited. He came home past midnight, smelling faintly of tobacco and a perfume I didn't recognize. I was sitting in the living room, lights dimmed, pretending to scroll through my phone. "Oh, you're still awake?" he said lightly, surprised. "Couldn't sleep," I replied. "How was your meeting?" He froze for half a second, just half. "Meeting? It was fine. Long day. Downtown, right?" I said. Now his eyes flicked up, sharp. "Who told you that?" "The security guard," he scoffed, tossing his keys onto the sofa. "You shouldn't listen to gossip from guards. You know how they are always talking nonsense?" "Then where were you, Michael?" That did it. His patience snapped like a twig. "You're unbelievable, Hannah. You think I'm lying to you because I work late? Because I'm trying to grow my business? You don't understand pressure. You just sit at home all day thinking of reasons to pick fights." Each word hit like a slap. I wanted to defend myself, to say I wasn't accusing him, only asking. But his voice grew louder, firmer, cutting through my thoughts. "You're always imagining things. Every time I try to do something good for us, you twist it into drama." He walked out of the room, leaving the scent of cologne and anger in the air. I sat there, tears burning but unshed. Because if I cried, he'd win. He'd say, "See, you're too emotional." Gaslighting doesn't always sound like shouting. Sometimes it sounds like logic. The next morning, he acted as if nothing happened. He kissed my forehead, said, "Don't look so serious," and left for work, just like that. I wanted to scream, but instead I made breakfast. That's what betrayal does to you. It teaches you how to perform normalcy while bleeding quietly inside. Later that week, I decided to take a small risk. I called the bank again, pretending to be inquiring about a business partnership. The woman on the line said politely, "Yes, the account in the name of Samantha Foster is active and linked to a joint authorization by Mr. Michael Roberts." Joint authorization. That meant both their signatures, both their access. It wasn't an accountant's account, it was a shared one. I remember my knees feeling weak as I thanked her and hung up. I sat down on the floor, cold marble against my skin, and just stared at my reflection in the glass cabinet. I looked older, not in years, but in spirit. Something had changed inside me. Fear turned into quiet determination. That evening, when Michael came home, I asked casually, "How's Samantha?" He froze mid-step. "What?" "Your accountant," I said lightly. "You mentioned her." "Oh," he said after a pause. "She's fine. Why do you ask?" "No reason." I smiled. "I was just thinking how lucky you are to have someone you trust with all our money." He studied me for a long moment, suspicion flickering in his eyes. "You sound sarcastic." "Do I?" I said softly, turning back to the stove. He didn't reply, but that night I heard him on the phone in the hallway. His voice was low, urgent. I caught only fragments. "She's asking questions." "I'll handle it. No, she doesn't know yet." He hung up when he saw me standing there. "Who was that?" I asked quietly. He forced a smile. "Business call. You should really stop sneaking up like that." I nodded. Of course. But inside me, something settled. The guessing was over. The pretending was done. Now I needed proof. Not just for myself, but because I knew, once I had it, Michael's lies would crumble on their own. And when they did, I'd make sure the whole world saw what he'd done. You know, people say the truth sets you free, but no one ever talks about the part right before the part where the truth burns everything you thought was safe. That's where I was. After that night, I began watching Michael differently. Not like a wife, like an observer. He didn't notice. He never noticed much unless it was about him. Every evening, he'd come home, toss his keys on the counter, and talk about business expansions and new clients. His phone would light up constantly, screen angled away from me, and each time it buzzed, he'd flinch just slightly, the kind of reflex you only develop when you have something to hide. I started collecting quiet evidence. Screenshots of bank messages, notes of times and calls. I even took photos of receipts he left around hotels, restaurants, places I'd never been. One night, I found something I wasn't supposed to. A bank notification on his laptop, still open on the table. It showed another transfer, $3,000 this time to the same account. The description read, "Investment return." I copied the account number down, my hands trembling. I didn't even know what I'd do with it. I just knew I had to have it. The next day, I called a friend, Sarah, who worked as an assistant at a law firm. She was the kind of woman who didn't flinch easily. When I told her what was happening, she went quiet for a long second. "Hannah, that's financial infidelity," she said. "You need to protect yourself." "Protect myself?" I asked, half laughing. "From my own husband?" "Yes," she said firmly. "Especially if he's using your joint funds for personal gain. Or for someone else." "That last part," she said softly, but it hit like thunder. Sarah helped me draft a written inquiry to the bank, citing my joint ownership of the account. They were legally obligated to disclose transaction records, though Michael didn't expect that. When the envelope came, I opened it alone in the kitchen. I still remember the sound, the small rip of paper, the hum of the refrigerator, the clock ticking behind me. Ordinary sounds, framing an extraordinary heartbreak. Inside was a detailed statement of all transfers Michael had made in the last 3 months. Page after page, the numbers blurred together, but the pattern didn't. Regular withdrawals, round figures, all transferred to one account. Samantha Foster. I flipped to the last page and froze. There, in bold print, was a joint signature authorization. Account holders, Michael Roberts and Samantha Foster. He had moved our life savings, every penny we'd built over 13 years, into a secret joint account with another woman. My mouth went dry. My eyes blurred with tears I refused to let fall. It wasn't just money. It was trust, effort, partnership. Everything we'd built handed over like a gift. I didn't confront him immediately. I wanted to know who she really was. I searched again. This time, I found her. Samantha Foster, 34. Accountant at a private logistics firm. Single. Her profile was public, full of bright pictures. Lunches at cafes. Seaside selfies. A few tagged posts with Michael's company's name in the background. And then I saw one that made my stomach twist. A photo of her at a rooftop restaurant. Caption, "Celebrating a new chapter YN number blessed." Posted 2 weeks after the transfer. The comments were what truly broke me. Michael had replied under his work account with a champagne emoji and a line that said, "You deserve it, partner." Partner. He'd never even called me that in public. I closed the laptop. My chest hurt like grief, like shame, like fury all at once. How easily he'd erased me from the story of our own lives. That night, I lay awake beside him, listening to his steady breathing. He looked peaceful, even innocent. But I knew now the man I loved was capable of deceit so calm. It almost looked kind. I thought of confronting him right then, shaking him awake, waving the papers in his face. But I didn't, because if there's one thing betrayal teaches you, it's patience. The truth deserves an audience. The next morning, I played my role perfectly. I made his breakfast, ironed his shirt, packed his lunch, just like always. He left humming that same old tune. As soon as the door closed, I called Sarah. "I have proof," I whispered. "Good," she said. "Now keep it safe. And don't let him suspect you know." Over the next few days, I became an actress in my own home. I laughed when he made jokes. I asked about his projects. I even offered to help with paperwork, anything to keep him unguarded. One evening, I suggested, "You've been so busy lately. Why don't we have dinner out tomorrow? Just the two of us." He smiled, surprised but pleased. "Really? That sounds nice." I smiled back. "Yes. Let's celebrate new beginnings." He didn't catch the edge in my tone. The next day, I went to his office early. I'd called ahead, pretending to confirm a delivery. He wasn't there yet, but his secretary, a young woman named Nicole, smiled nervously when she saw me. "Oh, Mrs. Roberts, I didn't know you were coming. Just wanted to surprise him," I said gently. "He's been so tired lately." Nicole hesitated, then blurted, "He's been working late. A lot. With Miss Samantha, I think." "Ah," I said, my smile tightening. "That's wonderful. Good teamwork, I'm sure." Nicole nodded awkwardly, clearly sensing tension. I thanked her and left before Michael arrived. Outside, I sat in my car for a long time, the steering wheel cold under my palms. I wasn't angry anymore. I was calculating. That night at dinner, I would give him the stage and then pull the curtain down. Dinner was at a rooftop restaurant, the same one from Samantha's photo. The irony wasn't lost on me. We ordered his favorite dish. He was in high spirits, talking about how things were finally aligning. I smiled politely, waiting. Then I placed the envelope, the bank statement, on the table between us. His words stopped mid-sentence. "What's this?" "Something you forgot to tell me," I said quietly. He opened it, and I watched the color drain from his face. "Hannah, this isn't—" "Don't," I said softly. "Please don't lie again. Not tonight." He swallowed hard. "It's not what it looks like. It looks like you took everything we built and gave it to another woman," I said, my voice steady. "It looks like you signed your name next to hers where mine should have been. Tell me, Michael, what exactly is it supposed to look like?" He looked around, panicked that people might overhear. "Lower your voice. We can talk about this at home." "No," I said. "We'll talk about it here, because I want to see how easily you lie in public." He leaned forward, whispering harshly, "You're embarrassing yourself." I smiled, though my heart was breaking. "No, Michael, I'm exposing the truth." Michael stared at me, his jaw clenched so tight that the vein in his neck pulsed. People at nearby tables were starting to glance our way, not openly, but with that subtle curiosity that fills the air when something feels wrong. He leaned forward, voice low, biting. "Do you have any idea what you're doing right now?" "Yes," I said calmly. "I'm asking my husband where our money went." He tried to grab the envelope from the table, but I placed my hand over it. "Don't. You've already taken enough from me, Michael." He sat back, eyes darting between me and the statement, searching for a story to spin. "It's not what you think. Samantha and we have a business deal. She's helping me invest in new contracts. That's all." I tilted my head. "Then why hide it from me? Why close our account without telling me? Why the secret dinners, the late nights, the lies about the city?" He exhaled through his nose, frustrated. "Because you wouldn't understand. You never do. You're too cautious, too emotional. I was trying to make something bigger for us." "For us?" I asked softly. "Or for her?" He didn't answer. That silence, that small, cowardly silence, told me everything. I sat back in my chair and said, "Do you love her?" He flinched. "What kind of question is that?" "The kind that decides whether I walk away tonight or destroy you slowly," I replied. Still calm, his eyes flashed, anger replacing guilt. "You're being dramatic, Hannah. This is about money, not love. Don't turn it into something it's not." "Then explain the heart emoji under her post," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Explain the dinners, the shared account, the secrecy, because to me that looks like love, or at least lust dressed up as ambition." He looked away, and that was it. The confirmation I didn't want but already knew. The waiter approached then, unsure if he should interrupt. I smiled politely and asked for the check. Michael didn't look at him. His pride was cracking, not loud, but visible, like ice under heat. When the waiter left, I said quietly, "You could have told me the truth, Michael. I might have forgiven a mistake, but not betrayal wrapped in lies." He rubbed his forehead, exhausted. "You're making it sound worse than it is. It's just money. I can fix it." "No," I said. "You can't fix something you broke deliberately." He sighed, voice softening. "Look, she's been helping me financially. I needed her name for a few contracts. It was business. But yes, maybe I let it go too far. Maybe I liked the attention." I closed my eyes for a moment. "You liked feeling powerful again." He said nothing. When I opened my eyes, I saw him clearly for the first time, not as my husband, but as a man who wanted admiration more than love. "Do you even realize," I whispered, "that you made me feel crazy for weeks? You gaslit me into thinking I imagined it all. You made me question my own memory." His expression flickered with shame, but it was gone just as fast. "You're twisting things now," he muttered. I stood up. "No, Michael. I'm finally untwisting them." I left the restaurant, the night air sharp and cool against my face. My hands were shaking, but my heart felt steady for the first time in weeks. Behind me, I could feel his eyes following, but he didn't call out. He knew there was nothing left to say. When I reached home, I sat in the dark living room for a long time. The city hummed outside traffic, laughter, the distant call of a street vendor. All those small sounds of normal life, and here I was, a woman whose normal had been stolen and rewritten. That night, I didn't cry. I opened my laptop and started gathering everything. Bank documents, receipts, screenshots, photos. Every proof of his betrayal, neatly labeled and time-stamped. I created a folder on my desktop called Truth. Then I called Sarah. "It's confirmed," I said. My voice was even. "He's been lying. And there's another woman." She exhaled deeply. "I'm so sorry, Hannah. What will you do?" "I'm not sure yet," I said. "But I won't scream. I won't beg. I'll make sure the truth reaches where it needs to." "You're thinking revenge?" "Justice," I corrected. "He built his reputation on trust and honesty. I'll let everyone see what that's really worth." Over the next week, Michael tried to act like nothing had happened. He texted, called, even brought flowers home one evening. "I was thinking," he said, pretending warmth. "Maybe we could start fresh. Take a trip. Just us." I looked at the lilies in his hand, beautiful, white, and already dying. "You should give those to Samantha," I said quietly. "They'd match her lies." His face hardened. "You're still holding on to that nonsense?" I turned to him slowly. "I have documents, Michael. Every transfer, every message. If you call that nonsense, then perhaps your entire business is nonsense too." He froze. "You wouldn't." I smiled faintly. "You forget who handled your bookkeeping all these years. I know exactly how fragile your accounts are." He swallowed, realization dawning. "You're trying to ruin me." "No," I said, stepping closer. "I'm reminding you that you ruined us." The next few days were tense, a cold war under one roof. He started sleeping in the guest room. I started planning my move. Through Sarah's firm, I reached out to a legal contact specializing in corporate fraud. We reviewed everything. He advised I could claim misuse of joint funds and financial deception, both criminal offenses under spousal law. But that wasn't the part that interested me most. The part that mattered was this. Michael had also transferred a portion of company assets under that shared account with Samantha without disclosure. That meant not just betrayal, but potential embezzlement. And if proven, it could destroy his business. Still, I didn't want destruction. Not yet. I wanted exposure. One evening, I called Michael into the living room. "I'm attending your company's annual dinner tomorrow," I said. He looked up sharply. "What? Why?" "Because I'm your wife," I said smoothly. "And people have been asking why I never show up. It's time they see us together again, don't you think?" He studied me, suspicious, but said nothing. Inside, I was already calm. Too calm, because I knew exactly what I was going to do, and once it began, there would be no taking it back. Tomorrow night, under chandeliers and speeches, surrounded by his peers and investors, I would open that folder and let the truth speak for itself. The night of the company dinner arrived like a storm disguised as silk. The ballroom shimmered in gold chandeliers like melting stars, tables set with white linen and crystal glasses, violins whispering softly in the background. The kind of perfection that looks expensive enough to silence suspicion. Michael thrived in places like this. Crowds, lights, applause, they made him stand taller, smile wider, lie smoother. When I entered the hall, every head turned. I wore black, not morning black, but the kind that commands attention. My hair was pinned high, shoulders squared. Even Michael, mid-conversation, stopped and stared for a moment before forcing a smile and walking toward me. "You came," he said, voice low, tense. "I told you I would," I replied. He glanced around, careful not to look angry in public. "Let's not make a scene, Hannah. Just behave tonight, please." "Of course," I said sweetly. "I wouldn't want to embarrass you. But the thing about truth is it doesn't need to scream to destroy." The dinner began with speeches. Investors congratulated Michael for his integrity and leadership. The word integrity echoed through the hall, slicing through me like a blade made of irony. As Michael walked to the stage to give his address, the room filled with polite applause. I watched him adjust his tie, the confident posture returning, the charming grin in place, the man who could sell dreams and lies with equal grace. I waited, patiently. Halfway through his speech, he said, "This year, we've expanded our partnerships, thanks to strong collaborations with trusted associates." And that's when I stood up. The sound of my chair scraping the marble floor cut through the applause like glass breaking. Every eye turned toward me. Michael froze, mid-sentence. I walked calmly toward the stage, clutching a slim black folder, the same one that held the truth he had buried under charm and deceit. When I reached the front, I said clearly, "Before you continue, Michael, I think everyone deserves to see what kind of partnerships you've been building." A hush fell over the room. He forced a nervous laugh. "Hannah, this isn't..." But I was already opening the folder. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, turning to face the crowd, "I'm Hannah Miller, his wife. And for the last 6 months, I've been watching my husband steal from our shared business accounts and redirect company funds into a personal one with someone named Samantha Collins." Gasps rippled across the tables. Michael's face drained of color. "That's a lie." I raised a hand. "I have bank statements, screenshots, transfers with both names, and internal memos showing he listed her as a silent partner without disclosure. Do you want me to project them?" I turned toward the LED screen behind him, the same screen that had just been showing his slides. With one click from the USB in my hand, the projector flickered. And there it was, his digital signature beside hers. "Account numbers. Transaction date. $72,000, $150,000, $1.2 million, all traced and time-stamped." The audience murmured. Phones came out. Michael stepped forward, whispering harshly, "Turn that off right now." I looked him straight in the eye. "You told me I wouldn't understand, remember? Maybe they will." He lunged for the laptop, but one of the board members, a tall man named Mr. Harrison, stepped between us. "Enough," Harrison said sharply. "These records, are they real?" I handed him a printed copy. "Verified by the bank this morning." Micah's voice cracked. "This is personal. This has nothing to do with the company." Harrison turned to him. "You funneled company money through an undisclosed personal account. That is the company's business." The silence that followed was suffocating. Security escorted Michael off the stage as whispers filled the air. I stood there, still calm, as the projector blinked off and the lights dimmed slightly. No one clapped. No one spoke to him as he passed. That's how reputations die, not with noise, but with silence too heavy to break. As I walked out, I could feel dozens of eyes on me. Pity, shock, admiration. I didn't care. All I knew was that for the first time in years, I wasn't walking behind Michael. I was walking out ahead. That night, back home, I sat by the window with a cup of tea, watching the city lights flicker below. My phone buzzed endlessly, texts, calls, messages. Journalists wanted statements. Sarah sent one line. "You did it." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the folder on my desktop and deleted it. Every file, every proof. It wasn't needed anymore. The truth had done its work. Michael's career collapsed in days. His business partners withdrew. The company froze his accounts pending investigation. And Samantha? She vanished quietly like a shadow retreating from light. When he finally called me, a week later, his voice was hoarse. "You've ruined me, Hannah." I took a slow sip of tea. "No, Michael. You did that yourself. I just stopped hiding it." "You think you've won?" He spat. "You'll never survive without me." I smiled faintly. "That's the difference between us. You need people to believe in your illusion. I just needed to believe in myself." He hung up. In the weeks that followed, the silence in my house began to sound different. It wasn't heavy anymore. It was peaceful. I changed the locks, sold the car he'd bought under her name, and for the first time, used money from my own account to rent a small studio space downtown, a place just for me. I started a consultancy, small, quiet, but honest, helping women track financial discrepancies, teaching them how to read contracts, decode tax reports, and secure themselves legally. Every time I helped someone uncover a lie, I saw a little piece of myself in their eyes. That's how healing works. You don't erase the past, you repurpose it. Months later, I received an invitation. A new annual dinner. But this time, it wasn't his company's. It was mine. Standing backstage before my own speech, I looked at the rows of women seated strong, scarred, and rebuilding. When I took the mic, I said, "Once, I thought silence was strength, that enduring quietly made you noble. But I learned silence only protects the wrong people." I post, "Truth may not fix what's broken, but it frees you to rebuild it your way." The room erupted in applause. I smiled not out of triumph, but relief. Because that night, I wasn't telling a revenge story. I was telling a rebirth story. And somewhere far away, perhaps Michael watched the coverage on TV, the woman he once dismissed, now standing beneath lights meant for her. But I didn't need his eyes anymore. My own reflection was enough. That night, as I drove home, the city skyline glowed under a restless moon. The same city that once held my heartbreak now held my peace. And for the first time, I whispered into the wind softly, almost like a secret. "I forgive you, Michael. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace more than you deserve punishment." Then I smiled, rolled down the window, and let the night air wash over me cool, endless, and new.